Hey everybody, it's good to be here. I'm home today because it's so bitterly cold out there that I knew that the store today would be too cold and I didn't have any appointments. So I decided to focus on gardening today and thought I would do a bit of an impromptu discussion about gardening. I hope that when you see this, whether you see this live or you see the replay, that you actually bring up topics and discussions that you would like to talk about. Actually, I know on my phone we had discussed a whole bunch of different things before, so I'm actually going to bring that up and see save as a draft, discard post. Okay, I'm just going to look at some of our older discussions. By the way, thank you for all of you people out there who have been telling me what you've been planting this year. So I'm kind of excited about that. So I'm going to go into the past comments. Purslane, great topics. Okay. So Pangea had talked about foraging. Some people brought up a discussion about hybrid seeds. Another person brought up to me, I've been getting a lot of discussions about seed starting and stuff. And I thought maybe, can you grow anything in the cold? That is a great discussion because, yes, you can. And that is called winter sowing. So please post your questions down here. So yeah, it is called winter sowing, and I have, believe it or not, a tool. Okay. First of all, before I go into that, and that is called winter sowing, you need to check what the seed packet says as far as your sowing times. Okay. So that means, in fact, I'm going to bring out my seeds now. This is how I package all my seeds and how I organize them. Your seed packets will tell you when you can actually grow your plants or sow them, okay? So I'm looking at this one, okay? So I decided that I'm going to grow this tomato, and it's called the Jersey Devil. And I know it doesn't look like a tomato, but it is. Alrighty. And in fact, the reason why I picked this out is that it actually is grown for this area. So New Jersey is pretty similar. It might be another zone ahead of us in regards to growing. But this Jersey tomato says start indoors 6 to 8 weeks before last frost. Our last frost here is approximately April 12th or 15th, something along those lines. But I'm not doing that. I'm not even going to base it on that. I know that I've seen snow in April. So for me, at least in this zone, 6A or 6B, which is our growing zone, we're talking about maybe like right around Mother's Day. That's probably a fairly safe time where your nighttime temperatures aren't dropping below freezing and your plants can survive. Something like a tomato needs much warmer. I don't think I would plant a tomato outside until it's at least in the 50s in the evening. Alrighty. But, so let's say I'm counting... I'm looking at Mother's Day as being the frost date for this area. I would then count back, this says 6 to 10 weeks, count back 10 weeks from that date that I chose, and I can start them indoors or in a greenhouse before transplanting outside. The way you can find your frost date, okay, your last frost date, is to just go into Google. Type in last frost date. I'm going to put it on me. Last frost date for Cornwall. Alrighty. Cornwall, New York. You type in your zip code and it'll come up with the last frost date. For some reason, the frost date this year was actually a little further behind. It made no sense to me, and I know that April can be quite cold. So I'm counting back from Mother's Day. That's my preference. And then I'll count back 10 weeks. And that's when I know I can plant this plant. Okay, this tomato. So how am I doing it? This year is going to be a little different. We ordered grow lights. And I know you can't really necessarily see them. It's a box up against the water dispenser there. But we ordered a good set of strong... Oh, hey, Tessa. Mwah. It's a good... this is the idea that we came up with. So this is going to be new to me. I was always using Aero Gardens. And then I would sprout something in that. Put it in soil. When it got strong enough, then I would bring it outside. So what I'm doing this time is grow lights. Alrighty. So my shelving is coming in today. And then we're going to attach the grow lights and then arrange the plants in order of importance. And what I mean by importance is, or I should say time, important crop for me is lettuce. Alrighty, I have guinea pigs. I don't know if you see the cages over there, but I probably was a rabbit in another life, and I love greens. So what I'm going to be doing is directly planting into a large pan or a pot, and love you too, Joyce. I'm going to plant lettuce in there for me to grow. Alrighty. It's good to see you, Joyce. So look at these awesome people here today. We got Harry, Tessa, and Joyce in here. I know that most of the time this will be watched on the replay, but when I do these impromptu things, I love it this way. So lettuce is going to be a big one for me, and I can grow that if I wanted to indoors year-round. What I'm going to do is grow them here, and then when I feel that it's warm enough, I could just transplant the whole pot outside. Lettuce is one of those plants that you don't necessarily have to grow for a complete head of lettuce. As it comes up, if you plant them closer together, instead of heading out, they'll grow up. And what I do is called cut and come again. And I pull out off the outer leaves, and that'll stimulate the inner leaves to get mature. And I harvest my lettuce that way. My sister-in-law's there. Hey, Stacy. So I'm going to grow lettuce and plants that way. So I can grow that inside. And again, I'm experimenting because I'm experimenting that way because I was able to do this with the Aero Garden successfully. So I wanted to try it in soil. I love it. So that's one thing as a matter of importance to me. So that is something I'm going to grow all the time. The tomatoes, I'm not going to start. I wrote on my plants that I'm going to start March 12th. And that'll give me a bunch of time, to sow them inside, move them into the greenhouse, and then outside. I know it sounds a bit convoluted, and there's a lot of steps, but I found that last year I did not grow nearly enough tomatoes, okay? I harvest, I dehydrate, I can and freeze my tomatoes. I'm already through them all. So when I made my quote-unquote sun-dried tomatoes, gone. I have some frozen, which I made into tomato sauce or Italian sauce or gravy in the freezer. I have a couple of things left, but all of the other fresh stuff is gone. And so I didn't do nearly enough. So I'm hoping that this year with the tomatoes, yes, and salsa. Joyce likes my salsa. With that, I'm growing paste tomatoes this year instead of slicers. If I want a slice, I'll just take one of my paste tomatoes. So I'm growing the Jersey Devils, which is a paste tomato, and then I have the Martino's Roma. Alrighty, so those are my important crops. Next in importance is going to be cucumbers. Again, anything that I pickled anything that I dehydrated or that I freeze, or I keep the ends for the guinea pigs to eat, it's all gone. It's all done. So I know that I need more. Now, what I found successfully, and I'd love to find out what you are all growing, because it would be awesome. What we did last year and grew it very successfully is a type of cucumber. Let me see if this is 2021. A new one is called China Jade. And this is Baker's Creek, so we know that they're GMO free and organic. So you can see this is thinner but much longer. So I'm hoping to get more produce in a shorter amount of time. Alrighty. And again, I'm going to be planting this out. That's funny. I'm going to be doing this. What they say is the last frost date is when I'm going to be starting these in here. So I'll be starting this April 16th. So what is unique about these is they're called bait alpha. And what that means is they don't need two or more to pollinate. They're self-pollinating like a tomato. That's going to be another video. And so I have a better success. Hey, Lyra. So for anybody who doesn't know, Lyra is our resident herbalist over here. So it would be fantastic. I'm going to get her on this show sooner or later, when I know she's always working and stuff like that. But I'd love to bring her on, because she can really give us a nice an idea as to herbal gardening. Alrighty, and stuff. And here's another one that I got from M.I. Gardner. And this is also a bait alpha. So right here is this. And my hubby's online. Tommy's there. So this is a bait alpha cucumber. So I have two different types. And I'm going to experiment with what is successful this year. Some of the... All right. I'm looking at all of the hearts here. You know? Hey, Craig. So, yeah. Now, why do I call this magical gardening? Because, as I mentioned in my last video, this is my form of worship. So I'm a very earthy type person. I'm not the type to dress up or, do a lot of the flashy things. This is my worship, and my garden is dedicated to the various deities and spirits that I work with. So I'm just giving you the wherefore art thou on that one. And this type of work, because you're honoring the earth and honoring your body and honoring those that you feed, is a form of worship. So I just want to give that to all of you as well. So getting back to the topic, seed sowing. So Harry mentioned cold weather. What can grow in cold weather? So there's something called, and I'm going to experiment this year, so I'd like to document this here so I can actually go back and see the progress. But if you take a milk carton, and this is why I put out the call, like if you have any milk cartons, to save me some, and I'm going to cut this around, but leaving the handle intact. So it's a great way to recycle your plastic, okay? And I love you too. So I'm going to cut this and take the top off. And where there's an indentation, put holes, all right, for drainage. So what you're going to do, or what I'm going to try and do, is fill this jar up just to where the handle is attached. Alrighty? And I'm talking about regular potting soil. Now, I'm not talking about seed starting soil, okay? And there's a reason for this. So I'm going to plant cold weather plants here. And cold weather plants are a lot of herbs, believe it or not, because they need the cold to sprout. And that's called stratification, okay? If you're not going to do this, look at your seeds. There's a bunch of them, like carrots, parsley, and a lot of herbs need to be put into the refrigerator because they need that cold. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the natural process of many plants. You don't think about it, but we have to mimic their growing things. So, growing things, environment. So, you put the soil in here, and then according to the packet, plant you know, you're actually, forgive me, no, it's not according to the packet. You can kind of overseed in these, alrighty, because you're not sure as to how much will take. But let's say it's broccoli. I'm going to kind of more intensely grow the seeds. I'll sprinkle them over the top because the broccoli seed is very small. But the rule of thumb for regular gardening is whatever the size of the seed is, double that, and that's usually your seed depth. And then you cover it. Stuff like carrots, very superficial. Lettuce actually needs light to germinate. So that might be a different thing. I'm not going to try lettuce in this. That's why I'm going to try the grow lights. So you put your seeds in here. I'm going to try broccoli, cauliflower. We could try Brussels sprouts. Anything kale that likes the cold. I will do that here. And believe it or not, close it up, tape it, make sure it has water. I forgot to add that. Make sure that it's moist but not wet, alrighty? Just a little sprinkling of water. Tape it around so it's closed again. Take the top off. Mark what it is when you planted it and put it outside. I know that sounds crazy, but it's mimicking natural process. It's kind of like if you were direct sowing outside without a jar, but with the jar, it actually raises the temperature and the humidity level just a bit more, and it'll give your plants a little bit of an early start. Plus, you don't have to think about hardening off plants, all right? Now, this is all that I've learned. I am not an expert on this, but I am going to try. And the idea by doing this live is I can share it with you. My experiences, my failures are just lessons, and what worked. So, for instance, for some reason, my radishes and my arugula didn't do well. In fact, that white butterfly, Joyce knows this because I had her son chasing after them. That bug, hey sweetie, hey Megan, the white cabbage butterfly will just, it killed a lot of my softer plants, and that meant like arugula, which is, they call it rocket, which is very peppery, and I like that in my salads. Ate that, and believe it or not, ate the radishes. So the leaves came up and they were gone. So I'm going to try radishes much earlier this year before they come out. And if I do this, yes, right, Lyra, that's great. So Lyra just mentioned pests. I have crazy problems with Japanese beetles, actually. And they tend to like my raspberry leaves, the cherry tree leaves. And if I'm growing green beans, they'll go after that if they don't have my raspberries to eat. So yeah, they also like roses. They pretty much like anything in that family. Rose, I can't think of the name of it. I want to say rosacea, but it's not that. But anything in the rose family. Is there any truth to peppermint oil on a cotton ball? Yes. Yes. Strong scented oils like peppermint, eucalyptus is another one, does work on certain pests and, in theory, deer. Yes, Miguel would absolutely no. So Miguel is one of our mods here. So, you know, if he jumps in and he throws in some info, please listen to him because his garden is way bigger than mine. Anyway, getting back to that, Megan, yeah, the stronger scented oils do work. And in fact, you can, if I'm not mistaken, effective bug spraying is actually made with water, with a teensy bit of dish soap. And then you put the peppermint oil in it. And it's the same thing with neem oil. And you mix that up together. I'm not saying shake it because it's going to get all bubbly. And then spraying it on your plants because the dish soap and use an organic one if you can, like a Castile-based soap like Dr. Bronner's. Actually, Dr. Bronner's has a peppermint soap, and that may work also. The dish soap helps to emulsify the oil, so then it's spread, and when you spray it, the peppermint oil it then can attach. What I've used peppermint oil very successfully on is when I've cut a plant, especially tomatoes. All right, so I'm the trimming tomatoes queen because I have a container garden, and I have to make sure everything is trimmed enough to fit and allow enough light for my other plants to grow. So anytime I cut tomatoes, anytime I cut cucumbers and other plants, I will spray with the peppermint oil to hide the scent of the hormone that the plant releases. So excuse me, a lot of people don't realize that when plants are quote unquote damaged, they release a hormone that is attractive to other insects. All right, yeah, it really is interesting. So when you harvest the plant, it doesn't hurt to spray it with a little bit of peppermint oil mix. Sometimes you can use neem oil with that. Now for aphids, I had a problem with aphids last year, right, Lyra? So it was in my greenhouse, and I couldn't understand what was going on. But what I did notice was that I was having a lot of ants in the greenhouse. Well, from another gardening channel, I think it was Callie Kim, okay? What I wound up doing is ants harvest aphids. It sounds crazy. Aphids give out a substance called honeydew. It is very sweet to the ants. The ants love it. So what the ants do is they find an aphid, tickle its belly, it gives out the honeydew, they eat it, and then harvest more. So I saw that I was having a lot of ants. So what I did, based on what I found, I think it was Callie Kim, I bought a large bag of Dimetacious Earth. And what I did is I put it all over the floor of the greenhouse, all in the corners, because it's on a deck. You know, we have my greenhouse is on my deck, and then we have insulation, like pink board on that. So if I spill anything, because I put it all in the corners, and then put it on my plants. That took care of the problem. It took me 3 times, I think, doing it. Dimetacious Earth is 100% natural. It's actually ground up shells, seashells or whatever. It's just old stuff. It's what comes up on the sea. It's not farmed, if you get what I'm saying. So it's crushed up seashells so fine that for us, believe it or not, we can eat it. And that helps with intestinal issues. Do not take this as medical advice. I'm just saying there's food grade Dimetacious Earth, and then there's Dimetacious Earth that is used for pools. Alrighty? We're talking about food grade. You put it all over, the ants die because the Dimetacious Earth is so fine. To us it feels like powder, but to them it's like glass, and it kills them. Alrighty, so this is a natural pesticide that I highly recommend using. You don't need much, all right? And you don't want to be willy-nilly about it either. I used it in my greenhouse. Tried to do a little bit on my cherry trees and on my raspberries. It didn't work too much. I was hoping to get rid of that, the white caterpillar. I mean, the white cabbage. Yeah, anyway. Butterfly. Didn't do too much there because I guess they're just too smart. But if you're having a problem with ants, you probably also have a problem with aphids. So I highly recommend using Dimetacious Earth. I get them it's the 10-pound bags, very inexpensive. I got it from Amazon. You know what I mean? So, it's so nice to see you, Freya. It's awesome. I've used Dimetacious Earth to kill fleas. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And in fact, when I was in my old location, I had what they called those sugar ants. Those teeny weeny ones that come in. I just sprinkled it all around and I took care of that. Hello, sweetie. Oh, I'm loving seeing so many people here. It's Georgia. There's lots of ants, aphids, and roaches. So try, Megan, try the Dimetacious Earth. Alrighty? So this way you have a natural, if you want to call it an insecticide or something, but try that and then it should help you because it's not going to do any harm to your kids. You know what I mean? So you're not going to introduce any harmful chemicals into the home. And then if you have a greenhouse, I would recommend putting it there. So what I'm going to do this year is when I start moving things out to the greenhouse, I'm going to sprinkle it out there as a preventative. We'll see what happens. Will do, because chemicals scare me, especially, yes. Absolutely. Yes, sugar ants are the biggest one. Yep. I totally get it. And that's the reason why I highly recommend doing that. Now, the reason why I say don't do this willy-nilly is this, and this is important. If you're putting your plants into the ground and you're trying to encourage earthworms and good bugs, okay? The good bacteria, the good, you get what I'm saying. There's the bad bugs and there's the good stuff. So we want our wigglers, alrighty? We don't want to kill them. So this is an important thing to remember. I don't know what my phone's going a little bonky. So the idea is if you're having a problem with Dimetacious, with your plants that are in the ground or in the container, you can buy a little, it's like a little poof. All right, you squeeze it and you can, it'll blow the Dimetacious Earth on your plants. I've done that, but you don't want to kill the bees and you don't want to kill your wigglers. Everything is above ground here. Can't dig into the ground. Right. And right now, nothing can dig in here. I mean, it was 8 degrees this morning. But the talk about having plants and the seed starting and everything is really exciting me again. I actually sat down and made a plan. If my daughter finally watches this, she's going to laugh her butt off at me because I am not the most organized person. But this year, I was. So I marked all my seeds, what year I got them in, when the first frost date is. I can't believe I did all this. All right, and yeah, I'm sure people are laughing at me right now, right, Tessa? And Joyce. Actually, Joyce is the one that organizes everything for me over there. And I'll know what I want to plant. I have to prioritize. Based on what I did last year, I know what is more important to me to grow this year. I know better what works better for my environment. So I'm grow zone 6A, 6B. I have my own little microclimate. So on my deck in the summertime, I guarantee you it's at least 6B because I get sunlight from 6 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon, but I get east, west, and south facing on my deck. So it gets very hot, and I'm in between a mountain and the river. So it's kind of a unique climate. It stays a little bit more humid here, but it also gets more windy here because the wind comes down the mountain. I've learned a lot. I'm interested this year in getting a weather station to really pinpoint the different zones around here. I know that sounds crazy, but it makes me happy, okay? If you know me, my brain's got to work at all times. So, important thing about seed sowing. Grow what you want. Not grow what you want, grow what you need. That's probably more important than anything else. There's no reason to spend more than what you need, okay? Keep in mind that you should be doing something that is called succession sowing. So let's say this week you plant yada, yada, yada. Then in 2 weeks, you do another sowing of that. Alrighty? And then in another 2 weeks, you can do that. Why do you do that? Is so that when one plant dies or has has plants on it, you can plant another. You'll have, I know I'm not explaining this correctly, but you'll have a continuous harvest. So when one plant dies, you have another one that's just coming into fruit. When that plant dies, you have another one that's coming into fruit. Right, that's what Lyra said. See, Lyra, you have an amazing garden. You and Miguel have wonderful space, right? And then you can work with what you did last year. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, and take it that way. So, number one with seed starting, it's great. I have so many seeds. I have way more than I possibly need. I have a predisposition for sunflowers. I love them. Yeah, he is the one with the green thumb. Again, Miguel is our co-mod, so when I can get him on here, he'll throw in a lot of his stuff here too. But where was I going? Yeah, I love sunflowers. I adore, they're like, sunflowers and roses are my favorite flowers. Sunflowers are 100% edible, and this year I want to make flour out of them. Flour. I bake a lot, I'm on keto. So this year I want to grow an abundance of sunflowers. When the stalks die off, I can cut the stalks in half, take out the pith, and actually roast them in the oven or dry them out, and then make that into flour. The entire plant is 100% edible, and if you don't want to make the flour out of it, you can dry the stalks and use them as a trellis for another plant. So I have a whole bunch of old sunflower stalks that I will be using for this year. So since I have a container garden, some of my varieties, even though they're bush type, meaning they don't really vine high, I still like to put a little bit of a support next to them, because I've had them where they said it was bush variety and they just went boom, all over the place. So I use my sunflower stalks for that. So you don't have to spend any more than you have to. All right, so keep that in mind. So grow what you need. And if this is your first time garden, it's going to be experimental, and you're going to figure out what it is that you need. Like I mentioned, did not grow enough cucumbers. I did not grow enough tomatoes. Actually, I grew a lot of tomatoes, but they weren't the right type of tomatoes. So I'm not growing, intentionally, I'm not growing any slicers. Now, sometimes seeds drop and they may come up as a volunteer. By my compost pile, we had this, I don't even know how it got there, but probably in my compost, we had cherry tomatoes that were large, like this. They were actually quite delicious, and they grew all around my compost pile. So it grew out of the compost pile. So go figure. And another one grew in our small in-ground garden. And my in-ground garden, or I should say it's my husband's in-ground garden, is small. It's probably like 6 feet by 10 at the most. I'm sure I'm not getting those dimensions right. And then I have my container garden. So important to grow the right type of plant for your area and what it is that you will be growing. So to me this year, paste tomatoes, bait alpha cucumbers. I would like more per plant, so I'm trying that China Jade and see if that works. I'm growing a lot of hot peppers. This year, I grow and eat, I like hot food. My husband likes hot food. My children love hot food. Their dad loves hot food. Our families love hot food. So last year, which were delicious, were the Anaheim chilies and the Big Thai hybrids. This year, I seed saved from last year. So to me, my favorite was the Big Thai, but I'm going to be going crazy. But I'm growing Scorpion peppers. By the way, hot peppers are notorious for taking a long time to grow. So I'm just letting you know, like, this is another one that I will be starting indoors. You know what? Mid-February was what I wrote down on this, because they take a long time to sprout. And it also took me a long time to produce fruit. Lyra, did you grow hot peppers last year? I want to know if you had the same thing. So that was Trinidad Scorpion, so it's like on the 2 million Scovilles. And then this is a mid, mid-heat, mid-hot, So this is called Sugar Rush. Now, mind you, just to keep in mind, this Scorpion seed or the packet says that I have to wear gloves to plant this. So I'm just letting you know, I've had an issue with that, and I touch my eyes and I wear contacts. It was not pleasant. This one is in the mid range, and I find that the hotter peppers seem to have that convoluted shape. You see that? And then that Trinidad Scorpion. So this is a mid. Now, a mid-heat or mid-hot might be nothing to me, but it might be incredibly hot to you. So what do I do with this? Just to give you an idea, self-sustainability. I'm growing my own spices. So I dehydrate them. I put them in a grinder, and then I package them with those little packets that absorb moisture, and I have pepper flakes for the year. So I grow, put them in my sauces. Yep, hot is right. Yep. And I put them in everything. So I like I said, I like the heat. Plus, heat, if you don't have digestive problems, is good for the digestion and speeds up your metabolism. Only if you don't have a problem with digestion. Okay? So I'm just letting you know that. So I got the Sugar Rush Peach. So I'm looking forward to that flavor. I tend to like peppers that have really great flavor, almost fruity, and then the heat builds up on the end. I hope that makes sense, but that's the best way that I can explain it. So here's another one with that wonky shape, and it's another, yeah, thank you, Lyra. And then here is another one. This is a new one for me. It is on the $1 million Scoville. So the Trinidad Scorpion is 2,000. This is one of the hottest heirloom peppers in the world. Plants will produce large amounts of medium-sized cone-shaped peppers that will begin as green, and then they slowly turn to brown, then bright red. The pepper has a smoky and floral note. It is used for Indian cooking. So those who may like Indian food, this is a good pepper to grow. I have to head off, but I have some important questions. I'll call you sometime soon. You got it. Okay, Megan. And then I have, this is like, to me, mild. Okay. Bright 1-inch pods tapered to a point. It has a distinctive smoky flavor. This has a little bit of heat, and I wanted something for a fruity taste, something that maybe I can make a condiment out of. So, let me see. Bequeenho. What kind of a Latin am I? And I can't even pronounce this correctly. But, so I have this, and then I have the California Wonder Peppers. So, again, in my experience, the hot peppers take longer, so I'm going to start them in February. So I don't know if anybody has had any experience, and if you can throw some of your expertise this way, please let me know. So this is the California Wonder. So this is a sweet pepper. So this is a new variety for me this year also, because I grew the Cubanelles and they were beautiful last year. And in fact, you can eat any of these while they are green. And to be honest with you, sometimes I just can't wait. And I eat them when they're green. You can eat a pepper at any stage. Green, yellow, red, regardless of what the packets show you, a pepper can be eaten at any time. I have yellow monster peppers, the Cubanelles. And then, again, new for me this year is the Solar Flare. This is lettuce now. And lettuce is going to be an important crop for me. And I mentioned that. So this one, I have to go back, according to this, ideal temps between 60 and 80, sprouts in about 7 to 10 days. It says seed depth 1/4 of an inch. I wouldn't even do that. I would sprinkle on top and just press them down a little bit. Lettuce needs light to germinate. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Seed spacing, it says 8 inches. I'm not doing that because I'm growing them as a leaf lettuce, not as a head lettuce. So it's called high intensity planting. I mentioned this before. I'm planting them like 2 or 3 inches apart instead of 8 as they mentioned. And I take the outer leaves, and then the leaves under that will grow up and take its place. So I feel that I get more of a harvest that way, and I get a continual harvest. If one plant is finally exhausted, I'll have a seed started either indoors or in the greenhouse, and then take it back outside. So you get, and it worked for me last year. All right, just to let you know. So that is a solar flame. I have Ice Queen and then Butter Crunch. I think, Harry, that's what you were talking about in regards to the lettuce that you were having. So, okay, so Butter Crunch, Merlot, that's another red one. That's a new one. Now I'm going to grow parsnips and radish. So I'm going to try something new. Believe it or not, I'd never eaten a parsnip. So I'm going to direct sow these because they say they come up as fast. Let me see. Days to germination is 2 weeks to a month to germinate. One soil is workable. Direct sow. All right. The reason for that, just to give you a heads up, and by the way, this is a long radish. It looks like a carrot, but this is the daikon radish. And this is parsnip. They look alike, don't they? Root vegetables don't like to be transplanted. And I found that one out the hard way. So either you have what is called a root trainer container where the root can grow this long, and then you carefully transplant, or just direct sow. These are cooler weather things. So we're talking about, I'm looking at the temperature here. Full sun, 1/2 inch deep, partial sun, cold tolerant, plant in the spring or in the fall. So that's a cold or a cool weather crop. So I'm going to direct sow these. And again, I'm going to keep track of what is successful. And another new one is my sunflower. So I have what is called short stuff sunflowers, evening sun sunflowers, that's a red one. I have the teddy bear sunflowers, and I have the chocolate. But I'm excited about this one. So, huge heads. You can see that the head of that sunflower is actually bigger than that child's. And it only grows to 2 feet long, 2 feet tall. So I was very, very intrigued by this, and I want to give it a try. Again, in my container garden, I can grow this. I'm also kind of using this as, hey Lisa, it's good to see you, sweetie. Another big plus for this is growing this in the containers. I've never had a problem even with the big ones. But this brings in so many pollinators, it's unbelievable. I will walk past a sunflower and hear the hum. Okay? I love it. I have a healthy respect for bees. I got stung pretty badly, not last year, the year before. But those were wasp bees that were living under my deck. Didn't know they weren't the type of bee that I wanted to be around. So I got stung 7 times. That wasn't pleasant. But they responded to me dragging my chair on top of their nest, so they felt threatened. Okay, so I understand. Anyway, I thought having a shorter one, besides the fact that it's a great novelty, would be the height of the plants that I'm growing in my containers. So it'll also help to bring pollinators in. And I can't wait. Come on, look at that. That's gorgeous. I can't wait to seed save for that. Alrighty, and then I have this evening sun. Let me put this back in the package. This, I'm going to just get it through a couple of things. So we have this beautiful sunflower, which grew really well for me last year. I have that. On a medicinal end, plus a pollinator end, I am growing Calendula. So I'm going to start this one off a little bit sooner. So ideal temps are between 65 and 70. So I'm going to plant this one. What did I write on this one? I can either plant it April 16th or direct sow. So I wrote that down here. So I have a feeling I'll probably sprinkle it, allow it to come up on its own under any of my crops. And what I mean by that is, let's say I have a tomato plant and it's growing well. I might just throw a couple of calendula seeds underneath that and let it grow. Again, high intensity growing. It's what I do. So, and calendula is just a great all-around medicinal herb. I also grow chamomile, parsley, oregano, sage, and more. I can't keep up on it. This year I'm growing more basil, by the way. I have eggplant, which is Rosita, and then I have the Chinese string. Eggplants and tomatoes are actually in the same family, so they're nightshade. So let me describe that for a second before I go into the rest of this. Nightshades are, you know what, even potatoes are a nightshade. So if you're predisposed to issues with nightshade plants, you might want to reconsider. I'm not necessarily supposed to have them because I have rheumatoid arthritis, but there's no way I'm not going to eat them. So that's my decision here. But eggplants and tomatoes can be planted out approximately the same time. These are heat-loving plants and don't like the winter. So I'm going to start these in March. So I have it as March 12th is what I put down for this. I'm planting nasturtiums. This is called peach melba. I'll be planting these April 16th or direct sow. So this one's a new one called peach melba. The beauty about nasturtiums, I believe they like it cooler. People say they grow all the time, start indoors 3 to 4 weeks before last frost. Direct sow. Plant spacing 6 to 12. I've just thrown seeds and they've just taken off. Seed depth, 1/2 inch. Whatever the birds leave is how it grows for me. But they do like it a little cooler, and nasturtiums are 100% edible. The flowers, the leaves, the stems, they have a peppery, zippy taste, and they're great in salads. My guinea piggies don't like peppery taste, so they won't eat them. But I eat them, and I think they're absolutely wonderful. So I highly recommend. And then I have another one called, I can't take it out because I taped it. It kept falling out of my thing. So it's called Black Velvet. So we have oregano. I have cilantro going in. My first year, I'm going to grow corn and then dill for my pickles. Alrighty. So the corn is direct sow. The dill is direct sow or indoors. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it an outdoor plant or keep it indoors. I like the smell of dill. And I'll be using it. Oregano, that's a big duh because I cook a lot of Italian food. And I think, here's a new carrot. Again, root vegetables have to go outside, all right? They're direct sow. So this is a new one for me. So Uzbek, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Carrots require light and fluffy soil in full sun. So sprouts in 12 to 18 days. Ideal temperatures between 50 and 75. So it's a cool weather crop. Again, 1/8 of an inch at the most. Alrighty. Frost hardy, absolutely. But they do need good sun. So I did not do well with my carrots last year, but the year before I did much better. And I think that's because my tomatoes shaded out the carrots. Now that's going to be another video, and we're going to talk about how to plant your crops so that the big tall ones don't shade out the smaller ones. So I'm rearranging everything. My tomatoes are actually going to be last, meaning in order of how I'm planting height-wise. Anything that is really tall should be in the back because they can reach for the sun. If you plant it in the front, it's going to shade out anything that is smaller. You don't want to plant lettuce behind tomatoes. You understand? But if you did it the other way around, it'll grow. So we'll talk about that another time. Dragon's tongue beans. I tried to grow kohlrabi last year. Did not do well with that because of that white butterfly. Alrighty. I'm going to leave it off here unless anybody has a question for me. I'm going to, otherwise I'll leave this off here. Plus you can also leave me questions in the comments during replay and I'll try to get back to that. And again, any topics, subjects, suggestions, because I would love to bring somebody else on instead of hearing me go on and on and on, because I have some experience, but I'm not an expert, and I don't think anybody ever really is until you're dead. You know, the day that you stop learning, that would just drive me nuts. And I'd also, another time, we'll talk about storing your seeds and maybe organizing your stuff. So far, I have this in this Trapper Keeper, and that's working for me. Alrighty, so any questions from anybody? Otherwise, I'll give this a goodbye. Okay. All right, we don't have too many people on here, so I think I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Many blessings to everyone. In as I mentioned before, we'll be doing, these impromptu pop-up videos. Feel free to share this anywhere. Alrighty, and I would love to hear your comments, okay? I know that it's the middle of the day and a lot of people are working. I just happen to have taken off today, so I thought I'd give this a try. Alrighty, so many blessings, everybody. I hope everybody is well, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.